Well, I've come here to Bangor today to meet a man who's really made it big in the publishing world, starting with just the gem of an idea but having enough grit and determination to see it through. He is Mike Keenan, publisher of Ireland's Homes, Interiors and Living magazine.
Morning.
Nice to meet you, Mike. Not the sort of place I'd expect to find you on this day. Where are we?
Well, actually, we have a magazine started with in terms of the idea and innovation of it. The top bed set is actually which was my office, living accommodation, the whole kit and caboodle. And there was just me, a fax and a phone, and the idea was conceived and the magazine was literally launched from this building, so to speak.
Your staff and your offices have expanded quite a bit in the intervening 5 years.
Yeah, literally the staff, well, we've got up to big numbers now, and we've had to obviously get larger offices because, 6'4" room only holds one person, and that's it.
Well, let's have a go look at your posh new gaff then.
All right, we'll do.
Did the original idea come from for the magazine?
Well, with coming back here to Northern Ireland and looking at the various publishing options, one of the things was actually made by a comment by a member of family who'd been trudging around all the shops in Belfast with a piece of swatch of fabric of curtain, whatever it was, and it was taking hours to try and find the suite or whatever it is she wanted it to match. And I said, well, why didn't you look at the magazines? And she said, because of all the magazines, they're all English.
You've worked for magazines before. Did you have a home and interiors kind of background, any experience in that area before you started?
None whatsoever. I left Northern Ireland. I'd worked for the Belfast Telegraph. Prior to that, I served my apprenticeship in Shaw, Bros and Harlan, the aircraft industry. So I wouldn't classify that as a background.
You could build a plane, but you couldn't choose a pair of curtains.
Absolutely right.
Do you think it was a help, actually, coming from a completely different background?
To be absolutely honest about it, that I've worked in various publishing things and various magazines, but you don't have to have initially a background in that aspect of it. It's really, if you know about publishing, you do your research into your marketplace, then you bring your people in that know about it or have enthusiasm for it, and you take it from there. But really, my expertise, if you describe it as that, has been that I spent 20 odd years in the mainland, sort of working on various launches of magazines, like national consumer magazines such as Chat, and business magazines on a scale of similar to what I do at the moment. Right.
How are you?
As you go through, actually, you'll see the Rogues Gallery.
Yeah.
From the first issue up to, we haven't got the current one, we've got the sticky up instead.
This is last.
Hi, Martine. Mail, how do we do in terms of inquiries?
Doing well. How are you?
Right, would you like to come through?
Good afternoon, House Interiors and Living magazine.
So as you see, totally self-sufficient. This is actually press week. Without getting too technical, this is all the film which is going over across to Manchester. And what we have done, these are thumbnail sketches of the various articles that are going in. So that what I'll be doing later on with Elna, we'll be laying out the whole section, and we'll be deciding what pattern the magazine falls in.
You take that much of a hands-on approach?
Yeah, unfortunately for all these guys here, I think they call me the parrot behind the back because I always seem to be lurching around their shoulders. So they're being very polite and quiet at the moment. I'm not worried.
So you come up with the idea of the magazine, you decided that's what you were going to do. Who did you sort of approach first with your idea?
Well, obviously it was that's the banks in terms of the finance and so on. And so I put the business package to the local bank manager, who thought it was, thankfully thought it was a great idea, and that was my first approach to the bank. Then after that, you approach what you would describe as the distributors, the wholesalers, and you put the idea to them in the sense of how many copies and so on. And the guys were still laughing when I walked out the office.
Really? What did they just say? That was so stupid, this won't work?
The actual, the idea I suppose like most ideas, it's fairly simple. It's actually the planning and putting it forward. Getting the monies, getting that kind of backing that you need.
In the face of that kind of reaction you were getting from people, like, well, you know, we don't really think this is going to work at all. I mean, how did you get to the actual stage where you're getting your first magazine on the shelf?
Well, that was a bit of nip tucking and pushing and shoving, in the sense that I came out, as I say, with the concept of it, and literally put together a dummy version of the magazine myself, and that meant going to a local colour copy centre and sitting on a drawing board and cutting it all up and so on. So I had the dummy of the magazine, because it's extremely hard to put, you know, your idea from your head in a visual sense across to someone.
Yeah.
So once they saw what I had in my hands and so on, yes, they started to go with it to a degree. The wholesalers were saying, right, we'll take it off you, but we think you're stupid anyway. And it was then trying to find local talent.
And had gone to a local, like an employment place where it was like introducing women back into work, and I'd gone and given my requirements, and she was going, oh, you don't have a hope of getting a part-time job in Bangor, you know, for what you want. So I went away thinking, oh, well, you know, worth a try. And a couple of days later I got a phone call to say Mike had been in touch and he's looking for somebody and we think you'll fit the bill. Then he told me it was sort of working from his spare room in his flat, and I sort of went, uh-oh. Not too sure about this, you know. So we had a chat anyway, and about beginning of December he phoned, he says, right, okay, I've got a fold-up chair in my kitchen, he says, if you come along. You know, I still thought, what am I letting myself in for? And that was my office, this fold-up chair, 3 small sort of like kitchen table. So I thought, went along, sort of, here's a phone, here's the yellow pages, this is what I want you to do, get on with it, you know. It was sort of like, right, here we go, you know. And I sort of just sat and thought,
no, what have you let yourself into?
What is this, you know?
I mean, you stuck with it, and
well, it did. I think I actually changed quite quickly, because I think about the end of that week then we got 2 desks, and it was like, oh, here's luxury, you know. I still had the fold-up chair, but I had a proper desk, a proper phone. I had gone from sort of this wee handset to a phone. And within that space of a week, 2 weeks, sort of phoning, looking for contacts and getting sort of the feel of the magazine itself, because with it only being out 1 month, that was like, you know, didn't really know it. But very quickly things started to sort of pick up, and I sort of started at that stage getting away from just phoning to do research into doing the invoices, doing the, you know, sort of looking after the accounts, doing all that. And it just sort of snowballed.
That first issue sold just over 12,500 copies, and which made it the largest selling magazine, not just local magazine in Northmount, but actually outselling the national magazines that were coming in terms of single unit. So yeah, it was off to a great start.
what is it, do you think, that distinguishes your magazine?
It's basically, its content is a local magazine, but it's produced to a national standard. And there's no sort of big scheme of things but beyond that, with that statement, really.
So, I mean, after all of that, you launched your first issue in November of 1994. You know, also, you got there, you got on the road, but sort of towards the beginning of the next year, it all started to go a bit horrible for you.
Well, this is where you know, I would say to anybody launching or putting together their own thing, you're at the mercy of banks unless you have bundles and bundles of cash behind you. What happened was that the local manager was saying, yes, I'm fully behind the magazine, Mike, and it's wonderful. And don't forget, I was selling. This product was selling, and the biggest selling magazine. And the advertising revenue was starting to come through. But it's like most small companies and new businesses, cash flow. So I went to another bank on the Thursday, did a presentation to that bank, and it was a bank holiday, the Easter bank holiday. And on the Tuesday, that bank came back and said, we liked the business plan. But on top of that, more importantly, and this is the one key aspect of it, I was fortunate, the product was being read by these guys' wives and by themselves. Anyway, the other bank said, yes, we like it, plus they knew the product, it hadn't been around for a number of months. So I lost a month's issue because while this was going on, the printers wouldn't print until they were sure what was happening. And we lost an issue for a month, and then we moved in with this other bank.
Whenever, you know, you started to pick up after that dreadful time and to lose the issue and everything, I mean, could you pay any of your staff?
We, it was like pass the parcel.
He said, we'll pay you a few pounds, and it'll be a bit short this week, could you wait, and I'll give it to you next week. And, you know, sort of like, Because at that stage I wasn't really in it for the money. It was only
Right, so you were able to keep
I was
going.
only really there just to sort of get into the way of working again, and I could see a good future, and I thought, well, sure, it's only a few pound anyway, you know, we'll see. And I could see what Mike was taking home, which was nothing, you know, so I thought, well, you know, we'll suffer on here for a while and see.
And I've had guys and girls working around me now that the days when we were literally taking £40 a week and living off £40 a week, I'm sure the editor won't mind me saying it, but she was still working on restaurants at night because I couldn't afford to pay her more than £40 a week, because I was taking £30 a week out of myself, and if it needed to be, that £30 went back into the pot.
Where does that sort of determination come from? I mean, you've obviously, it's been like a personal crusade really to see this through, from you in the flat, producing this thing yourself, to having a, you know, a big staff and expanding and moving on. I mean, you must have a tremendous amount of drive personally.
I'll leave other people to comment about this, my drive, and I like to think of it as a bit like a tiger by the tail. You know, once you start going on it, you're terrified of letting go because you're going to get bitten by it, and you're just there for the ride after that. But you have to go with it. You're talking about a lot of work, and if I've seen people start businesses, not just allied to publishing, and they sort of get up and go into the office at 10 and they drift home at 4 o'clock and they take the weekends. And I say, good luck to them if you can do it like that. I was 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, and first holiday after 3 years. And that's not martyrdom, that's simply what you had to do to get the whole project going.
That sort of workload must have taken its toll.
I don't mean using them. Yes, it did. I had worked, in my previous background, as I mentioned, was obviously in publishing, working in the mainland, and whether I liked it or not, I seem to have had a reputation for being the kind of guy you bring in to launch a magazine or redevelop it or change it or whatever. That's always a hell of a challenge. Too strong, to be honest, on the collar of things.
No, it's come out well.
It's a great thing working on launches, but that was back in my, shall we say, my youth, going back 30 years. So when you work those kind of hours when you're in your 20s, is one thing. Work those hours when you're in your late 40s, yes, it can take its toll.
In the 5 years, your sales are just peaking.
Well,
huge.
we've moved recently down from October to Southern Ireland, and that came about was we had a title, Northern Ireland, Homes and Interiors, and we were selling up to 20,000 copies a month.
That's, I mean, that must be about the highest selling, is it?
It's about 4 times the nearest local rival,
Right.
and it's about 3 times the English rival being imported into this country. And what was happening is people were buying the copies and taking them down south, because we were getting inquiries from down south. So I approached the publishers down south and said I would like to put some copies of the magazine, and the publishers said no. Why? Because it's Northern Ireland. The retailers won't stock a Northern Ireland magazine down here. I was told that quite bluntly. And I said, well, but hang on a minute, you stock English magazines, but you won't stock a magazine from up the north of Ireland where it's easy to drive across the border to buy the furniture. Yes, that's right.
Although obviously selling to the whole of Ireland would be obviously a bigger potential readership, but was there a certain amount, was it a risk to expand the magazine to include all of Ireland? Because you sort of think that you do say people love it when it's in their area and their own.
Yeah, there's once you put a thing like Northern Ireland or Ireland on any title, instead of just homes, interiors or woodworking and joinery, it's no longer your magazine.
Yeah.
When people ring up and want to talk about the magazine, it is, I just received my magazine the other day, and what are you doing with my magazine? And yes, there is this thing about people, once I was talking to them, some people hear about the fact that I was going to extend the product to incorporate the South, was, well, why are you taking our magazine down there? And we thought there'd be a kickback.
Yeah.
We were told by the trade here, via the wholesalers again here, there'd be a kickback. And to be honest, I think if I'd listened to them properly, I wouldn't have done it. We decided to push it out because we did believe that, again, we did some research into it, people would have taken it. And we've put out the first edition in October, and our figures back in October are just under 40,000 sales.
That's amazing. I mean, it's been an amazing success story. I mean, is success, is that important to you? Is it always important that you be a success?
I still get a buzz I love the business. I love when I buy newspapers and magazines. I'd start looking at them and thinking what I would do on that, or what could be made to look better, or in fact, in a lot of cases as well, great, that's a good idea. Is there a way I can adapt that idea? Horrendous to be out with, because if I'm out with my partner and I call into a newsagent, she knows she's lost me for 20 minutes. The success for me is measured crudely by the sales of the magazine. We had the largest selling magazine in Northern Ireland. We've now got the largest selling magazine in Southern Ireland.
And has the journey you've made been worth it?
It's been worth it because there's a lot of bodies that I work with who we've already lost people at, to other magazines, and they look at us and they say, right, if I can nick somebody from that magazine, it's a good thing, because those guys are really good. So there's 20 odd people out there which I'm really proud of, and they've done a tremendous job and doing tremendous jobs. So I take that is a hell of a lot of pride in that, and a lot of pride in seeing it on the shelf and it selling well.
Well, we wish you every success with the new expanded magazine and all your future projects. And thanks, Mike, for talking to us today.
Thank you very much indeed.
Well, Mike did say that you have to work very hard to make a successful business, so while he's up there getting ready to burn the midnight oil, I'm off home to think about changing my curtains. I won't be travelling back in a Jaguar though this time, but, well, you can't have everything.